When it comes to mega yachts, you have to get the Coast Guard involved. It's a legal process. And we did it, and we got the yacht, and we made it all the way back to Staten Island, New York. And they called us up and said this was an error. It was a total banking error. We need you to turn around and bring it back. I'm involved in a lot of different automotive businesses, and one of them that I've been involved in for just about 28 years. I did take a small leave from it when I sold one of my businesses, but it's carried me through for a long time, and I've been very successful with it, is the repossession industry. It's taken me through a lot of crazy situations. We've taken cars, planes, helicopters, weird stuff. One of the craziest things I ever repossessed was a software package. We actually had to go into an office and repossess a software package from a company. They never paid for it. We had to remove their hard drives. It was kind of crazy. I did a Chinese buffet takeout restaurant and convenience store in Midtown Manhattan, which was really interesting. We were getting paid by a company that had a lien on the entire place. So we went there with like a budget rented truck. We pulled up, walked in, and just started clearing the place out. All the people that worked there were calling the owners. They lived in Jersey. They came out. We were behind the counter at this point, like packing up all the cigarettes and everything. It was really bizarre. The owner got there and said, stop, I'll pay. And this particular lender said that we would be able to accept payments. An Asian couple went up to the office, and he had said that his wife was supposed to pay. And unfortunately, he got violent with her. And we had to separate them, and we had to call the police, because he actually put his hands on her. But he wound up opening up the safe, and he handed us $80,000 right on the spot. Yeah, and paid us for our time and paid us for all the back payments and everything, and settled it right then and there. But that was a little crazy. There's so many different unique situations that happen. We've picked up exotic cars. We've picked up fleets of cars. We've picked up fleets of taxi cabs, limousines. I had a guy with a Lotus, actually, that bought the Lotus from Manhattan Motor Cars when they were a Lotus dealer. It was a Lotus Esprit. He stopped paying for the car, and he was a missing man. He was a fugitive. He wound up raping a undercover NYPD officer, and he was arrested, and he made bail, and his family bailed him out for $2 million, and he left, and he had the car. And nobody knew where the car was. And we researched the heck out of it, and I located the car in Greece. He had gotten the car out of the country on bogus paperwork, because you can't send a car out if you have a lien on it. And he had some sort of bogus paperwork, and he got it out of the country, and we found it in Greece. And we were able to get in touch with the U.S. Marshals, and they wound up getting the car, seizing the car, and him. And he came back and stood trial, and he wound up getting sentenced 20 to 40 years in jail. They seized the car, and we wound up getting the car back eventually. Yeah, there's some crazy seizure stories in New York City. In fact, there is a Lamborghini Countach sitting in the NYPD impound for over 25 years. It was purchased by a guy who was like a Dominican drug lord, and he bought it. It had a temp tag. He went to like a nightclub and had a shootout at the nightclub. The car didn't get damaged, but he was arrested. The car was impounded, and he fled the country. He was bailed out. He fled the country. And because the case has never been resolved, the car still sits today in the NYPD impound, melting into the ground. And it was a black with gold wheels, just like the Cannonball car. It was really cool, and it was a Countach, yeah. At the time, the most valuable car I ever repossessed was a Vector, and it was the Americana one, which was the American flag. Interesting enough, it was through a leasing company. The guy bought the car, they did the lease on it, and this guy was a professional bodybuilder who also was a collector of exotic and rare birds. Real strange guy. And he stopped paying for the car because he had a mechanical problem with the car. And Vector was refusing, or not refusing, but they weren't standing behind it at the time. But Vector was a failed business. But at the time, that car was actually, it had a Lamborghini drivetrain. Really cool car. And the way we got it was that we had lab coats made that said Vector with the logo. And we called him up and made an appointment to do the service on the car. I said, we're going to come there, we're going to service it, we're going to fix it. The leasing company reached out to us and told us that we need to handle this. And he was happy as can be. No problem. We got there, he got it out of the garage, gave it to us. We just pretended like we were turning some wrenches, and we said, we just need to test drive. And he said, no problem. We took it, drove it right out his gates, and never came back. There's a lot of violence in the industry, and it's gotten worse. In 2023 was the deadliest year for the repossession industry. Unfortunately, there were 7 repo agents that were murdered. 2023, it's gotten potentially more violent. As times get tougher and people get more desperate, sometimes people feel like they have no other option. Like I tell everybody, it's not worth it. Walk away. We do on a regular basis. Many years ago, we actually had a car that was surrendered. The person that owned the car had passed away, and his wife was giving the car back to the bank. She had no use for it. It was actually a Ford Windstar cargo van, kind of a weird bird. So we went to pick it up, normal. And when we got it back, one of my employees said, hey, there's something in the back of it. And I said, well, what is it? He goes, I don't know. So I went to go check it out. And as soon as I saw it, I knew what it was. And the reason I knew what it was is because it happened to be a dermatological tattoo removal laser. And the reason I knew that is because at the time, I had a tattoo that I was looking to get removed. And I had gone in for a treatment, so I recognized the machine right away. I saw this machine and I was like, this is crazy. So I called the woman and I said, there's a machine in the back. And she's like, I don't care, whatever it is, just throw it out. I want nothing to do with it. My husband passed away. That was something he got involved in with renting machines or something, and it's nothing to do with me. I said, okay. So there really is no law in New York State how long we have to hold property for, but customary at 60 days. I held it for 6 months. I said, somebody may come along looking for this. I don't want to have any problems. Nobody did. So after that time, it becomes mine. The machine was worth $130,000. And I wound up selling it. That was the down payment on my first yacht. So it kind of worked out. But we find, time to time, we find a lot of interesting stuff, a lot of weird stuff. Between weapons and jewelry, drugs, things like that, that's more common. One time we found urns with people's remains, and they go unclaimed, which is crazy. Like, who leaves that behind? One time we had a cooler in a trunk of a car which had a deceased dog. The person's dog had just died, and they put it in the trunk in a cooler, and then the car was picked up. A couple of days later, there was kind of a funky smell, and when we found out, I was mortified. I didn't know what to do, and I was just shocked that they didn't come forward for it. We've repossessed boats, we've repossessed cars, one helicopter. The helicopter was interesting. That was another issue with it wasn't being repaired, and that's why they stopped paying for it. I can't say who it was taken from, but let's just say it was one of the wealthiest guys in Long Island who owns a huge computer company. And I was shocked when it came over my desk, but he settled it up and took care of it. But it was that kind of situation. I had a mega yacht in Baltimore Harbor. We were contracted to take. We went there, and when it comes to mega yachts, you have to get the Coast Guard involved. It's a legal process. And we did it, and we got the yacht, and we made it all the way back to Staten Island, New York. And they called us up and said this was an error. It was a total banking error. We need you to turn around and bring it back. So that was an interesting one. They paid us and everything, apologized to him. The guy was a super nice guy. He actually, when we got back, he thanked us. He took us out to dinner, and he couldn't have been a nicer guy. He said, just a total screw up on everybody's part. He said, sure, they notified me, but if I get a letter from the bank, I don't open it. He's like, why would I open it? I know my money is there. That guy owned a huge manufacturing plant in Italy. Really super, super guy. In fact, I think I talked to him 2 or 3 more times after that. Just a really good guy. He couldn't thank us enough for just taking care of it. I had a certified captain with me and this and that, and just for being, really stand up, real good people. And he was as well. Oh, that bill was a big one. Bill was a big one because when we picked it up, there wasn't much fuel in it, so we wound up filling it up. Oh, it cost like $30,000 to fill up. Yeah, so I mean, the whole bill was like a $60,000 bill. We've never repossessed anything with anybody, anything living in it. That's never happened. I did actually right around Christmas, we found a car where a woman and her 2 kids were living in it. We can't take a car with people living in it, but she said, I can't afford the car, I can't do this, and I said, listen, you shouldn't really be sleeping in the car. This is not where you should be, and these kids shouldn't be in here. And I've done this a few times in my life. I felt it was my, just my civic duty. I took her and her 2 kids, and I took them to a hotel. I prepaid it for the month. I got the kids all sorts of Christmas gifts, and I got her a job. I found her a job. She contacted me. This is a long time ago. This has to be about 12 years ago. She contacted me maybe 4 years ago, and she thanked me. And I get choked up when I talk about it because she said that I saved her life. And she said she wouldn't know where she'd be today, and both her kids were in college. She now is a manager for like a large insurance brokerage. Yeah, at the time I had gotten her a job in a car dealership, working in the billing department for a friend of mine, and she moved up in there, and then I guess she met an insurance broker and then got a job in a brokerage, got her insurance license, and became a manager. The car went back to the bank. She's like, I shouldn't be doing this. She agreed with the whole situation. And I wasn't there. I wasn't the one taking the car. It was one of my guys. But I got involved right away. He called me, what do I do? What do I do? And actually it was in a mall parking lot, and the security in the mall knew that she was sleeping in the car, and the security gave her a ride. They were going to take her to like a shelter or something like that. And I said no. And I got out of bed. I flew into the city, and I said, no. And I went to one of these little boutique hotels. I paid for the month. And I found her housing, and I found her a job. It was a true success story.
This month of VINwiki Car Stories is brought to you by Bridgestone. We've talked a lot this year about the Potenza range of tires for sports cars and supercars, but what I'm personally most excited about right now is the Dueler AT Ascent. It is their latest and greatest tire for on-road and off-road capability. I've tried so many tires for my off-road kinds, but this really seems like it's going to be perfect. It's got full-depth interlocking 3D sipes, and it is their latest and greatest product, so it should give me all the off-road capability and wet and snow and everything else that I want to put it through, as well as much better road manners. So check them out, as well as the whole range of Bridgestone products, to find out what's perfect for your ride at the link in the description below, and look forward to more amazing content on VINwiki from Bridgestone.